The Marvel Superhero Podcast.
Diablo Frank.
The Legal Machine.
Mr. Fix-It.
The movie slate, both Marvel and DC Comics. Shazam. Are we doing the big one now?
No, I think it's. You talk. I thought we were gonna do it. I thought you said you wanted to like a big Shazam. It's like I don't have any juice for a big Shazam.
Nope.
Okay. Well, so no, we've got two big ones actually.
Okay.
Because the one time we can go after pre-existing concepts: Batman versus Superman versus Captain America versus Iron Man, Dawn of Justice versus Civil War.
Spoilers?
Check.
Mature language?
Check.
Viewers beware?
Check.
Marvel superheroes have arrived. Captain America,
Fantastic Four,
Hulk, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Spider-Woman, the God of Wonder.
Batman versus Superman versus Captain America: Civil War.
That's not a comparison, dude. Okay, because you're saying because they're coming out at the same time?
Well, not just that. Here's one instance where I really think Marvel is basically ripping off DC. I think that they always wanted to do a Civil War movie. My understanding is that Feige's been interested in that concept for a long time, being introduced in the cinematic universe. But the fact that they were going to come out on the same day, two movies with heroes versus heroes, it's like, no, Marvel engineered that. Now, I think Marvel can win that fight, but Marvel engineered that, and I thought that was a little bit of a cheap shot on their part.
No, but Marvel's had that story in the archives for a while now.
The Dark Knight Returns has been in the archives for a while, too. You can make that argument.
That's true.
But they both come out the same year. At one point, they were going to come out the same day.
I think that was Marvel.
But they're not telling Dark Knight Returns.
But I think that was a stare down, and DC flinched.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, there's no question about that. Can we just say Civil War and walk away from it? Do we really need to elaborate on that?
I think it's going to be Civil War. I think that, and it's a damn shame, right? It's a damn shame.
You could, I honestly, I don't think it's a damn shame.
Okay, stop.
Who thinks that a movie where Batman fights Superman is a good idea? Really? How is that a good idea?
Here's the thing, though. How could it not be a good idea? It's Batman and Superman.
No. Batman and Superman. Yeah. Batman versus Superman?
Batman versus Superman. It's still Batman and Superman. To think that Captain America and Iron Man even have a shot, the world we live in, man. It's 2014, where Captain America and Iron Man may be the two biggest concepts on a screen in a summer where Batman and Superman are going to share a screen. It blows my brains out. I don't understand. If you would have told me this even 5 years ago, I would have died laughing.
You would have mocked me relentlessly.
Oh,
for even suggesting the possibility.
This shouldn't even be a discussion, and it's freaking me out. It's freaking me out.
How the tide has turned to such a degree.
It's unbelievable.
Because I'm going to give you, Batman, even regardless of everything else that's gone on, Batman is still the biggest, most popular superhero in the world. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
But then you got Superman, and Superman was the biggest, most popular superhero in 1955. His peak his most recent peak was what, late 70s, early 80s? Really late 70s, because even by the early 80s, he was getting to be kind of laughable. You could see Rambo or you could see Superman. People wanted to see Rambo. They watch Smallville. It's not like Superman doesn't have cachet anymore, but he's still not the hero that the majority of the people can get behind anymore, because he's the bland white guy who has all the power, and he doesn't have good villains, and he doesn't do anything particularly interesting. And then Batman, he's got money, and he's a decent looking guy, and he's got cool suits and cool props, and he's a detective, and he's brilliant, and all this other kind of stuff. So you can see why people still like him. But I can't help feeling like both of these guys are on their way out, honestly, in terms of their relevance to the world. I just think that people are much more interested in the specificity of guys like Iron Man and Captain America. If you're a tech guy, if you're a fan of womanizing, you got all kinds, Iron Man. Batman's a guy who could have any woman he wants as Bruce Wayne, and he chooses to hang out in his cave, and every now and again bring in a little adopted boy. It's just hard to get excited about Batman when you look at it into those terms.
It's weird.
And Batman has more fans than anybody, and I'm sure I'm pissing some of those guys off. But who's more fun to watch?
It's going to be tough because we know how good. Because we saw the little flash of Cap versus Iron Man in Avengers, where they had that little conflict, and it left you wanting more, and now they're going to give it to us?
Well, and they're not just waiting to that either. They're going to set that up in Avengers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to be...
Did you see that footage? The log chopping footage?
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay, well, they were...
I mean, we didn't discuss this because we already kind of covered the leaked trailer, but then they had that additional footage at the beginning where they're all trying to lift Thor's hammer.
Right.
I mean, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, that feels more...
And I'd heard about that one a while back, so while I didn't want to see too much, that was a little thing. It didn't spoil anything for me. It's just a nice little moment.
It's the shawarma bit. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's good, though, to see all the characters interacting like that. But so we already know that Cap and Iron Man are going to be able to converse on screen, and we're going to like it.
The scene, and don't watch it, because it gives you a little bit too much plot detail than you would want to
Okay,
have.
don't want to watch.
Okay. But what it does establish is that they're both friends and people who work together and have spent time together, while also being two guys who are in a significant conflict with one another, or it's at the beginning stages at least. Where with Superman versus Batman, not only are you introducing us to a new Batman and a not terribly well-established Superman, but you're going to try to convince us that these guys have either a history or they lack a history, and they're supposed to come at each other with this acrimony. I'm not interested in Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck trading verbal barbs with each other.
And here's where it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the set up Marvel history already, because Steve Rogers has a history with Tony Stark's father. It can work together so well. It's not fair. It's not fair.
It's almost like, yeah, because
It's not
again,
fun. And I don't
one of
even
the
know-
reasons why Tony was so down on Cap was like, this is the guy my dad was always talking
Right.
about. So it's just...
And Cap's going to be like, this is Howard Stark's son, right? I mean, it's oh my God, it's going to
It's
work
meaty.
so well. And I don't even think that they did it intentionally, but they're like, oh, found gold, and we're gonna fucking exploit it. Whereas what I think like what you just said is just perfect. It's too big of an obstacle for them to overcome, trying to establish the new Batman, take the Superman, tell us they have a history together, and have us buy into the conflict.
Well,
like it's gonna be tough, and it's not. I'm not saying it's gonna be a bad movie, I know it doesn't make sense that all powerful Superman is gonna get beat by Batman. You're gonna have
right off the bat,
you're gonna
that's
have
really
to
hard do.
you're gonna have to pull a bunch of shit out of his ass just to even make this movie right. Because in Dark Knight, that was it. It took everything for Batman to beat him. It was an old. I mean, it was an old ass Superman. You know
I just have to get in here because this is the thing that really makes me mad. Is if you're a Superman fan, and I'm not. I go back and forth. I have love for Superman. I just don't love any version of Superman I've seen in recent memory. And I'm talking about the memory of people who were pretty damn, who can drink. The problem with Dark Knight Returns is too many people read that book, myself included. And because it's written from Batman's perspective, and even to a worse degree, it's written from Frank Miller's perspective, you see it as Batman won that fight. Well, what happened is Batman, first he had to turn into Iron Man and put on this big, bulky armor. Then he has a fight with Superman where Superman doesn't want to be involved in the fight and is holding back the entire time. And then Batman gets help from people like Green Arrow shooting fucking kryptonite arrows at Superman. And then even still, the best he could do was he managed to overcome Superman for a few seconds before he had a heart attack and died. And at no point does Superman ever actually really fight back. He doesn't fucking hit him with super heat vision and blow his fucking head off immediately, which is what he could do. So there's no way that Batman beats Superman. You're given the impression of Batman doing well against Superman if you can take aside all these extenuating circumstances.
If you didn't read the story.
And you forget the part where Batman dies at the end of it. And that everything that Batman has and stuff he took from other people was what it took to even make Superman look bad for a moment. For a moment. He's fucking Iron Bat. He's not fucking Batman anymore at that point, okay? One hero is giving every fucking thing he's got, every ounce of juice he's got, just to have a good showing and maybe put a bigger guy on the ropes for a moment, but not really to win. Captain America and Iron Man's conflict, their personality clash, that came out of, you got those guys into an Avengers movie, and Joss Whedon had to figure out how these guys were interact with each other. So it came naturally out of their circumstances and things that had been established with them, and then things that he had established. Superman fighting Batman, which is something they've been doing since the 80s, it doesn't make fucking sense. Why are these guys fighting each other? Why do people find that interesting? The only way it becomes interesting is Batman fans want to prove their superiority to every fucking buddy, so you get to beat Superman. So it makes Superman look bad. But it doesn't make Batman look good. It just makes them feel like they can beat everybody.
And this is what I was going to say. There's no way Superman makes it out of this movie looking good.
Yeah,
and isn't it a Superman movie? Isn't this technically the Superman sequel?
Technically, the Superman sequel is going to come down the road at some nebulous point, potentially after the Justice League movies or some shit.
I just think that, look, it's not that I dislike
They're
Superman.
looking at this as the Justice League prequel, and the Superman Batman movie is not Superman's movie sequel anymore.
So it's not that I dislike Superman. I'm just sort of indifferent towards him. I just think that he's boring. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's all the stereotypes people say about Superman where, okay, he has every power and he can beat everybody. How am I supposed to read a compelling book about this? Lois can only be in peril so many times. I can only read about him at the Daily Planet so many times. But I kind of actively dislike Batman. And the only way this movie's going to be any good is I can just see the whole crowd cheering whenever Batman kicks Superman's ass. Because Superman's perfect, right? Superman's perfect and Batman's flawed, and you want to see the underdog win. And that's the only way I see them making this film is the underdog beating Superman. It's to make Superman look like shit, and it's going to make the character I don't like, obviously, look really, really good. And all those people are going to, like you said, the C, all you got to do is give Batman a little bit of time, and I guarantee you he's already got his book with how to beat everybody. Flash super fast, there's no way that the Batman should be able to beat the Flash. Oh yeah? You just got to turn to this page, and he's got this in his utility belt, and
and that's the book he stole from Black Panther, by the way.
I don't see it.
It's
too much to overcome.
Yeah, and I like Iron Man, I like Captain America. I don't necessarily want to see them fight, but I know it's going to be an interesting set of circumstances that puts them in that position. And there are real stakes, because in the comic books, that conflict ended with a dead Captain America. And I'm tired of people saying, well, that's going to happen this time too. You don't know that. We don't know that. I don't think that would be a particularly interesting way to go. But the potential's there. I guarantee you, at Dawn of Justice, you're not going to have a dead Batman. You're not going to have a dead Superman. If you do have a dead Batman, which I think is a really remote possibility, but I do recall that they're trying to set up Nightwing, and they've made a point of making Batman older in this movie. Typically, when you're like, we're going to do an older Batman, that means, oh, you're going to fucking kill him and replace him, right? The potential's there, but Captain America fans would be like, oh, Cap. But then you're going to do something with Bucky, or you're going to do something with Falcon, or you're going to resurrect him. It's not that big of a thing. When you kill Batman on screen, you're really playing with fire, because I don't think people will respond well to that. Batman fans don't like Batman to get beat like that. They want him back by the end of the movie. You can't just fucking break him like that. I just don't see the stakes. I don't think that they haven't earned that fight yet. And I just don't care as much about those characters. I'm not as interested in their conflict. I'm not as interested in what they're trying to do there.
No matter what the conflict is, it's going to be super contrived.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like
the conflict has come first, not the personalities, not a slow build up. It's just like, no, we've decided these guys are going to fight. How are we going to make that happen?
Whereas the Civil War,
you're working backwards from the fight.
The Civil War conflict makes sense. You can see why Cap would choose Cap's side. You can see why Tony Stark would choose Tony Stark's side.
The point of fact is, even though I'm a Cap fan, in the actual Civil War books, I kind of sided with Tony. The specific set of circumstances they laid out, while I didn't agree with the ways in which the government's oppression was implemented, because I refer to it as oppression, so right off the bat.
Yeah,
but I tended to agree with Tony Stark's side. Yeah, I was on his side in terms of the argument.
And the fact that you had that type of emotion shows that it's already a more compelling plot than whatever they're going to come up with.
Well, in the comics, Civil War was about a major philosophical difference and questions about whether or not government intervention was appropriate and stuff. What is the central conflict of Batman versus Superman? Superman let a bunch of shit get blown up, and Batman was kind of pissed off about it, so he's going to get manipulated by Lex Luthor into fighting Superman or some shit like that. It's so fucking
super
dry.
And here's the other thing. You could literally say, if there was some threat that Superman felt the need that he had to intervene, you could literally just say, well, what, like we said, why does Superman just kill him, grab him, capture him,
and then cry afterward? But
yeah. But you can see the conflict that Tony Stark, he could just put on the Iron Man suit and blast Captain America, but he can't. You know what I mean? They're friends. There's family involved. Captain America's Captain America. Yeah. He got us through the war. You know what I mean? You can't just go put Cap in handcuffs. You can't handcuff Captain America.
And when you do, I mean, one of the most famous Captain America covers of all time was him in shackles, and then there's blood on the ground because he was compromised and destroyed.
Whereas they've established if you arrest and capture Batman, you're a hero, right? Yeah. Or it's not that big a deal. Cap means too much to the country to just arrest or to kill.
Batman's not going to agree to stay in prison on principle. Captain America's like, okay, this has gotten out of hand. People are dying. It doesn't matter enough for me to be on the loose if it's going to be harmful to people, the populace, and he agrees to be captured, essentially. Batman would never make that choice. Batman would disappear. Batman will give the impression of being a villain, but actually, I'm just going to stay in prison and the world's going to go on without me. He would never fucking make that choice.
Again, I don't see how.
Yeah. But also, I wanted you to mention, because you were talking about, Giant Man just throws on the armor and goes after Cap. Well, one of the things that Winter Soldier established is that Cap can beat up a fucking small jet. He just beats the fuck out of the jet with his shield. Now, I'm not saying that puts him on a par with Iron Man, but it's a hell of a lot closer than Batman and Superman. Because even as ridiculous as the Batman movies can be at times, they've never gone to the degree where he's fucking jumping on jets and punching them until they crash. They've done that with Captain America. So at least there's a little bit more of equality. You can almost see where Tony's trying to blast him and he's doing all his acrobatic shit and he jumps and hits him with a shield. You can have a fight with those two without it being completely nonsense.
It would not be
I think it's
nonsense. I think okay. So in their own continuity, they've established that Iron Man isn't Thor. I mean, they've already had Thor kind of brush Iron Man off already. So you've set up
that's
the hierarchy.
Why Thor
of
was
powers.
fighting the Hulk,
right? And that's why Iron Man needs a Hulkbuster armor to fight the Hulk, right? I mean, you've already set that up. It's at least short bursts of conflict between the two. You can get away with it between Cap and Iron Man with how they've established it in the films. You can't do that with how they've already established. I haven't even seen the movie. I'm telling you, they've already established Superman's way too powerful to be fighting Batman. It's already done. Again, the whole Civil War movie is not going to be about CG fighting between Iron Man and Captain America. That's not what the movie's about. But you can do it in bursts, and it's fine. It's believable. You can't have any small burst of a fight. What is he going to throw a batarang at him?
Yeah.
Is he going to drop a capsule and then grappling hook up to the top of a building? Like, no, this doesn't work.
You put fucking Batman in a Batwing or whatever jet he's got, and he's flying around Superman. Well, Superman fucking knocks jets out of the air all the time.
He blows it up.
What the fuck is he? This jet's faster than your jet, or probably this jet emits kryptonite radiation that diminishes Superman's power. Well, I'm really glad you were able to fucking handicap Superman.
You got to handicap
to make it a fight,
right? You got to drag Superman down, which is why it just doesn't work.
Well, that's why you have them work together. They're fucking friends.
Yeah.
The Marvel Universe is built on interpersonal conflict. The DC Universe is built on cooperation. Everybody's supposed to be working together, friendly, on the same page in the DC Universe. That's part of their core. When you're trying to create their universe out of conflict, you're not accurately representing the principles of the universe, and you're not representing the characterization. You're trying to make DC into Marvel, and it doesn't work. Those characters don't work under those circumstances. And I can see it working with Aquaman because they're turning him into Namor. If he's already Namor, he's not compromised. He's a whole different character. But when you try to do that shit with Superman and Batman, it doesn't fucking work because the people know who Superman and Batman are. You're not introducing them to a whole new audience. And when you mischaracterize them, they fucking know. They're going to fucking catch you on that shit. They're going to nail you on it.
Which is why they didn't about Tony Stark and to a large extent Captain America. So like they've already established that Tony Stark is a really important person in the universe. Bruce Wayne isn't. Really? Yeah, right? He's just a billionaire.
He's very important in the Batman world. Well, I don't even want to call it world. It's Gotham City.
He's important
The Batman
in Gotham City.
isn't even an international character. He's in Gotham City, and occasionally he goes off and he trains in another part of the world, or he gets his fucking back broken and is dumped into a hole in another part of the world. So he climbs out of the hole and he goes back to Gotham City. He's a guy in a city. That's
Whereas
it.
Tony Stark has already been established as a global inventor, playboy, philanthropist, superhero.
You've got Wayne Tech satellites floating above the Earth. I'm not going to... Yeah,
Nobody cares.
But it's not the Iron Man armor. It's not... And if you try to whip out the armor, guess what? Everybody's like, oh, you're doing Tony Stark's shtick. This isn't Bruce Wayne's shtick. You're doing...
So that's what I'm saying. Even the alternate egos, okay? Steve Rogers is still Captain America versus Tony Stark. That's still an important battle. You can't do Clark Kent against Bruce Wayne, or you can't do Bruce Wayne
Actually, that
against...
would be the more interesting story, is you imagine Clark Kent or Lois Lane as investigative reporters who are going after Wayne Tech. Already, that to me is far more interesting than having Superman get into a fist fight with Batman. At least you can do something with that. Hell, what happens if Clark Kent investigates Wayne Tech and he finds out that Bruce is Batman? There's a story there, but that's not the story they're going to tell you.
That's not the story they're going to tell you. And that right there, what you just said, that should be some of the story. I don't think it's going to be.
Well, I mean, let's face it. They did this whole Superman movie. A good chunk of it was set in the Daily Planet. Who was in that movie? They had that girl who was like a Jimmy Olsen, supposedly, type character. She had the same name, but they never actually name her in the movie. And you got a black guy as Perry White, and he was the head of the newspaper, and he sent Lois on her stuff.
Great Caesar's Ghost.
He didn't even give us that much. We didn't even get great shades of Elvis. He saved the girl who may or may not be in some way related to Jimmy Olsen. That's the entire contribution to the movie.
I still got to see that movie.
Superman doesn't even have a supporting cast. How can you have them interact with each other and have it be meaningful when you've gone through an entire Superman movie and the only member of supporting cast that matters really are Lois? I mean, I guess his mom got some time in that movie, but he's just got Lois. So Lois is going to go interview Lucius Fox. I'm so excited about that.
I'm telling you, man, it's not looking good for that movie.
Yeah,
it's going to make a shit ton of money, though.
But imagine like fucking Rhodey and Sam hanging out together.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting. That sounds kind of cool. It's a shame that Peggy...
Within the context of the Civil War film.
Yeah, Peggy and Pepper.
Yeah.
That sounds like an interesting story. You can't have that without some time travel being involved, but those two personalities interacting sounds kind of cool. I think those two would actually get along really well. They don't have that at the DC movies.
Well, you can still do... Black Widow can come back because she spent time in Iron Man and in Captain America, so she can kind of be the go-between. Because now she's partnered up with Cap, and then you've got Pepper.
Well, it's not just that. We've already seen her and Pepper together.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You've already
Iron
got
Man
the
2.
universe is already there.
God, man, the shit works too well. It's not fair.
It's really
just not fair for these DC movies, man. And they're trying to play catch up because they don't have years to catch up, man. They're so far behind already. That's why they have to cram all this shit into this one Batman film or Superman film or JLA prequel.
They're putting all their fucking chips on Black 17. You know?
Yeah, it's just
how the fuck you're playing roulette. That's not the game you want to be playing right now.
Oh, it's going to be bad.
Yeah,
and the sad thing is that this movie that we are talking about, that there's no way. Not that there's no way. I'm not going to say there's no way this movie's not going to find something that we're not thinking about and play on it well. That's not going to make us roll our eyes for 2.5 hours or whatever. But every other movie on this timeline that goes to 2020, it really rests on this domino, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because of this because again, they made Green Lantern cartoons. They had all these. The fucking movie ends with a stinger that's setting up a sequel. None of that shit happened, and Green Lantern didn't do as bad. Again, it's another one of those movies. People talk about it like it's this colossal flop. It's not like it was John Carter or something. They didn't write down $200 million on the fucking thing. It just basically made back its production budget. They probably lost a little money on the marketing, but it wasn't that big of a flop. But they didn't do jack shit with that property after that. It was fucking toxic.
They don't want to talk about it.
They're not trying to redeem that thing. So what the fuck happens if you fuck up a Batman Superman movie? I mean, I'm sorry. If Batman Superman makes Superman Man of Steel money, it's a fucking failure. And it will have profited, and it's still a failure because if you can't light people's fire with Superman and Batman together, if you can't cross the $1 billion mark with those two characters combined, how the fuck are you going to make Aquaman work?
And that's the problem, is that movie, that's going to be such an important meal. You're going to have a lot of cooks in that kitchen. And the more cooks in the kitchen for these type of films, the worse it's going to fucking be.
At least Goyer isn't involved anymore. That's a guy who fucking was polluting those movies for a while there.
I don't think it looks good. I kind of want to see just the shit show,
the train
go down.
wreck.
Yeah, but I'm not feeling this film. Whereas Avengers, Avengers, I'm feeling Avengers. I might be more hyped for Cap 3 Civil War than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. If anything, just because it doesn't mean that they're going to be. I know a lot of people are criticizing. Oh, another Avengers film. You mean New York? New York's going to get blown up again? I mean, this is going to be. I think it's going to be a more cerebral film. It's going to get people thinking.
Wait.
I'm talking about.
You're talking about Civil War. Okay.
It's not going to be about blowing up New York again. Although I understand the catalyst of the entire Civil War books was a large portion of the city being blown up.
Well, it wasn't in New York. It was. I can't remember the name of the
suburb
town.
Or whatever.
It was in New England, but it wasn't even in the state of New York, if I recall correctly.
But you know what I mean. Insert town X being blown up. But that's not going to be what the film's about. The film, that's not going to be the end of the film. That's going to be the beginning of the film. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the film is making an audience pick sides. Are you going to pick Iron Man? Or are you going to pick Captain America? To me, that gets the juices flowing. Mm-hmm. And I think that they're going to do a good job with that.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, of the two, which one's going to be more interesting to watch? Cap, hands down, because Civil War had such a huge ramification in the Marvel universe that it was one of those game changers. Where this movie, Superman vs. Batman, is not Dark Knight Returns. If it was Dark Knight Returns...
Yeah, it's not Dark Knight Returns.
If it was Dark Knight Returns...
They're aping a few scenes from it, but it's not Dark Knight.
But Zack Snyder is directing that movie, and that guy's got a fucking hard-on fetish for Frank Miller stuff.
Hey, do you want to know why I want to go see Batman vs. Superman? What the fuck it's called?
Why?
Ben Affleck.
I don't don't mind Ben Affleck.
I like Ben Affleck now.
I like Ben Affleck.
Argo was quite good. I like
Argo was
that.
good. Gone
Argo
Girl
fuck
was
your
good.
Hollywoodland was a
Gone Girl was kind of whack, but he was really good in Gone Girl.
Hollywoodland.
I own Argo. I really enjoy that movie. I mean, I remember we saw it and I was thinking, wow, this is going to be a sucky movie.
Although, I'll tell you what, he's going to be terrible Bruce Wayne because people are actually going to like him.
You think so?
Yeah, I think that he'll be he's going to be closer to Tony Stark, I bet, than he is to actually fucking Bruce Wayne in comic
No,
books.
I could see that. The funny thing for me is every time
is
I
what they
picture old Batman, the only voice I hear is Michael Ironside.
Old Batman?
Yeah.
I'm Kevin Conroy for life, man.
Nah. If you watch the Batman series, the cartoon series, there was an episode where these three kids are talking about the
where
different
they
Batmans.
adapt that little sequence,
okay. Michael Ironside had the perfect old angry Batman voice. I love Conway, don't get me wrong, but he's always been the Bruce Wayne Batman. Ironside was straight Batman. He could not be Bruce Wayne. He was that old angry man who's vanished from the face of the earth. Bruce Wayne is dead. I'm just Batman now. Perfect voice. They're not going to recreate Dark Knight. If they were saying this is Dark Knight, I would have been like, well, hell, I think that's going to take it because it's such a great story. It's already a great story. You're just going to put it on screen.
Zack Snyder loves him some Frank Miller. But this movie's going to have Wonder Woman and Robin, female Robin, and Lex Luthor. I want to know, are we going to get any Dark Knight Strikes Back mixed up into that? Because that's a fucking scary thought. Maybe we'll have the whole totalitarian government media mogul Lex Luthor. Maybe we'll have Superman, Wonder Woman fucking...
It was DC playing catch up. And what they really should have done is they should have stood back and said, let's write a really good script for Superman, not versus Batman. Let's call it something else, like The Age of the League or some bullshit like that. And let's do a movie. And then when it does really well, then we do our spin-offs. But no, they're going to be like, we're going opposite. We're going to do our Avenger movie first, and then we're going to do all the little movies behind it. And that makes sense in our world because Marvel did it the other way and they were successful. So we're going to be successful going the opposite way.
Well, and also when you've been doing nothing, the only thing they've been successful with is Superman and Batman. So they're making sure, okay, we're going to give you a movie with both Superman and Batman, and we're going to introduce you to a bunch of other characters as well. That makes sense to me. I don't think it's necessarily a good idea in terms of the demands that places on the story, but in terms of commercial sense, they already tried to spin off some of these movies as their own franchises ahead of Justice League, and you got Green Lantern out of that. So why wouldn't you? And even Superman, if they want to catch up with Marvel, they don't have time to do another Superman movie, another Batman movie, and work their way up towards it.
But it doesn't make sense because then
it is kind of desperate though.
Because then what is that movie going to be? Is it going to be? Are you going to show the origins of Wonder Woman, or are you going to be like mid movie? Coming in 2017, the origins of Wonder Woman.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. I think that's just a bad idea. Because then you can watch that and say, oh, okay, Wonder Woman's this. Do I really give a shit about her origins?
Well, but think about this. Like Black Widow and Iron Man 2. Let's say Wonder Woman plays that exact same role. Is there any reason why they couldn't have done a Black Widow movie after Iron Man 2? Like an origin movie to tell you who that character was? A lot of people thought they should have done that.
But honestly, I don't think she could carry it. I saw Lucy. No.
Well, Luke, you got to put some blame on Luke Besson, though.
But see, the thing is, you can have a badass chick kicking ass, but you got to have a good story.
And my understanding is that the script they have for Black Widow is great, and they just won't fucking film the thing.
I could see the character carrying the movie because you got the KGB spy versus spy types, and that would work. I could see that working out. And then there was more than one Black Widow, right? There's her.
Well, that's from the comics. I'm not sure if they would get into that in the movies. But the point being is they could do the same thing that they could have done with Black Widow with Wonder Woman. You introduce her in a smallish role in one movie, and then you let her get fleshed out in other movies.
I mean, I guess. But in terms of the two movies we're comparing, so Batman versus Superman versus Captain America 3. I just think the Civil War story is going to be a lot more interesting because it's characters that we've already invested in the past. I mean, if they do some shit like, they kill Falcon or like some shit like that, like Falcon gets killed or some shit.
Good. Hey, that character's terrible. Falcon.
No, I like
Falcon.
Oh, no, that dude was fucking super duper lame.
No, I've never cared for Falcon in the comics, but the representation in the movie, I found Anthony Mackie, I thought did a great job on that flick.
No, he was the worst part. He was the worst part of that movie. He was the worst part of that movie.
Okay, well, you're in agreement with Paquito on that. I liked him. I thought he was good.
I thought he was super duper lame. Every time he gets brought up, I remember, oh shit, he was in that movie. I completely forgot.
Really? He was kind of shoehorned, I have to admit, because Black Widow ended up taking up so much of the same role.
Oh, what? You were part of this Falcon program? Let's go break into the... Oh, now he's got a Falcon suit and he's flying around. It's like, it was like, why? Anyway, we're not going to get into that.
Well, at some point, we'll have to do that podcast on its own.
Sometimes in December next year, maybe? You fuck.
Okay. Now, like I said, Batman and Superman, I want to see Batman and Superman. I'm going to go see it. I just have a feeling I'll be I feel kind of ghoulish because it feels more like I'm going to go watch a car wreck and less of a movie. Like I'm going to go something that's just this franchise coming at a halting crash and watch the bodies lay out on the road and slowly drive by it. That's what it feels like more to me. Where Cap, what?
That imagery was fucking... You don't have to say you have to slowly drive by it. That was too much.
Dude, that's what a rubber necker does.
I'm hearing Warm Leatherette play in my head right now.
That's how I feel like when I think about that movie. That's
You're a James Spader fan now that you've been watching The Blacklist. I guess you have to go back and watch Crash, the movie about fetishizing car crashes, because you just gave me like a trailer for it.
Oh, really? Well, I mean, but that's how I feel like when I think about the Superman Batman movie. That's what I visualize. I'm actually going for compared to Cap, where I'm just going because I really want to see where the story's going. Marvel's been smart enough where they've hooked me. I've invested, just like the comic book fans. We've invested time and money. Now you got to come to completion.
Well, and they've established animosity going back to the Avengers between Iron Man and Captain America.
Nah,
and
they're going that. They buddied up. It's just it's just two different views. It's two different views of the world. Cap sees it as sacrifice. Cap is your Boy Scout, Uber's Boy Scout, where Tony is more your pampered brat. Kind of, I've gotten away with so much shit that I'm just used to getting away with shit.
Well, that and it's
he's
a situation
very
where
cockiness. He's very
not
even cocky. He's arrogant.
Tony Stark
arrogant.
was born special. You know, he was born to be a genius, so he sees it. He's entitled.
Entitlement, yes.
Where Cap, there's nothing in it.
Pulled himself up by the bootstraps type guy.
No, he got zapped with Vita rays and correct the formula.
But remember what the
I think I know
the doctor said makes good people great.
Right.
So he was already on the way there. He just wasn't born with the attributes to achieve that.
But somebody like Tony Stark would see him as being a schmo who got some extra powers.
But he told him like you know
everything special about you came out of a bottle.
Yeah, I mean he basically slapped him in the face. But then at the same time, Cap's like you don't know what it feels like to throw yourself on the wire so the guy over you can climb over that that self-sacrifice. That I mean. My favorite scene from Captain America, the first one is when Jamie Lee Curtis, or what was his name?
Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Curtis.
That was in a different movie.
They look about the same. But anyway, Tommy Lee Jones pulls the pin, throws it, and says grenade, and everyone jumps except him. He jumps on it, covers the chest, push everybody back. And that's that moment where you're like, that's Cap. That's Cap.
It was a great scene. I love that scene.
And so
that's one of my favorites as well.
Really, and so when I think of Cap, that's Cap in a heartbeat. So they let Tony redeem himself in Avengers with a missile, and I think that's where his mind fucked. He gets mind fucked where he's been taught a lesson by Captain America, and then he's at the same time going against everything he is, like against his nature. So it's interesting.
Have you seen the wood chopping scene from Age of Ultron?
Yes. Some of it, but I saw a glimpse of it, but I didn't get to see the whole thing.
But you've seen the tension though that they're setting up there too. So
I want to see it.
Yeah, is it online or what?
It's online, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you're saying Civil War for the win?
I think Civil War for the win. Superman versus Batman. I think will make probably more money than Cap 3. Nope. You don't think so?
I don't think so. Honestly, I would have some questions about that. I know the Batman fans are going to coming at that movie hard.
I'm a Batman fan. I'm a huge Batman fan. I love Batman, but I just don't like the direction they're taking him in with this movie. Yeah. Like the Christopher Nolan, the first two were great. By the third one, I was just kind of like, eh. So this one, such an ass, Mac. Would you like to share with the class? So I'm going to have to say Cap 3 on that one. I think.
Keep it down. Kind of watch this.
Fucking asshole.
Warm leatherette melts on your burning flesh. You can see your reflection in the luminescent dash.
And because this is an audio medium rather than a visual one, I'll point out that Max started watching the wood chopping scene from Age of Ultron on his smartphone. Next up is some material that was originally cut from the Submariner episode for time and for content, and then was subsequently cut from last week's annual episode for time, basically. It was a long movie discussion from earlier this year. It's not terribly timely at this point, but I think it's an interesting discussion of the non-Marvel Studios movies, and considering how much time we spent on the Marvel Studios versus WB DC content, might as well throw this at you too.
And that's another thing I was wanting to talk to you guys about too, is have you heard about the Spider-Man movies?
No.
Okay, you know that they've been making those reboots, and the most recent one, the most recent one did not do well in the United States. It took forever for it to break 200 million in the United States.
It was essentially a failure.
Well, it made enough money, but by Sony standards, not nearly enough.
By Spider-Man standards, it did not make enough money.
Right, exactly. And the plan had been that they were going to do a Sinister Six movie. Mm-hmm. They were going to do a Venom movie. And then they were going to fold that back into, I think, either Spider-Man 3 or 4, because they were already planning on doing a fourth one. And because of the problems they've been having, all that's like up in the air now.
Wow, like completely taped.
Yeah, they know they're going to do more Spider-Man movies. As far as who's going to direct them, as far as who's going to direct it, who's going to star in it, what direction they're going to take.
Oh, they're not going to take the same Spider-Man kid stuff?
It's all up in the air from what I understand. Because the previous movies you had Robert Orci and Alex Kurtzman working with them. Orci's already left to go do Power Rangers and Star Trek 3. And then Kurtzman's still involved, but he's sort of like, I don't know what we're going to do.
Well, they were like a team,
it's all kind of up in the air. They were. They broke up as a team recently, though.
Yeah.
So they don't really know what they're going to do. And I think part of the problem, because I talked to normal people. Normal people would be talking to me about these movies at places where I worked. And one girl came up and she said, I don't understand why they kept making more of those. It's like they told their story in the 3 movies, and then all of a sudden they're trying to do it all over again. It's the same basic story. I don't want to see that.
That's exactly what my wife said. It was the exact same thing where she was like, wait, they're already making another Spider? Like, there was not enough time elapsed between the old Spider-Man and the new Spider-Man. It didn't make any sense. They were like, well, what happened to Tobey Maguire? Like, it was even like, it was so close, it felt like Tobey Maguire should still be in these. And so I think some people didn't get that these are literally rebooted. And when they realized, when they did go see it, they realized, it's not a sequel, it's a brand new movie. And I do think people are getting reboot exhausted.
Well, the first one was good. I think the problem with the second one was
it was good. No, it was good.
The second one was all set up, and people went walking in there expecting to see the first one. Action. They lacked a lot of things. They were trying to build a love story, and then tragic love story, and then you could really feel the movie was built for the next movie. This was just a stopping point. And so even it was, even for me, a fan, it was kind of like,
Well, see, like, Mac and I saw the first Raimi Spider-Man movie, and we saw the first Mark Webb Spider-Man movie together. And I think we liked the Mark Webb better than we liked the Raimi one, since it wasn't basically a remake of Superman by Richard Donner. But I didn't feel any compulsion to see the sequel, and you didn't either. So you're the only one at this table that actually bothered to see it. I think part of the problem, which gets it back to what I was talking about, is that these Spider-Man movies once again focused on the love story, except instead of it being Mary Jane, it was Gwen Stacy this time. And I think that they thought that the tragic elements of the Gwen Stacy story would be enough to get people into the theaters. But I don't think anybody wants to see a Spider-Man love story again. I think you want to see Spider-Man do something different. And instead, it's just like what happened with the Superman movies. Every movie was, here's the love interest, and we're going to spend a whole bunch of time with the super romance, and that's what's going to bring the girls in. But the girls, not to be sexist, they're interested in relationship stuff, not necessarily here's a guy and here's a girl, and they're going to have an epic romance. I know a lot of women who like the Avengers because of how the characters interact with each other. They're people too. They like to see people who have interesting relationship dynamics, regardless of whether or not they're a romantic relationship. And maybe that was part of the problem, is they were really telling the same story over again and without any kind of new angle.
Oh, yeah. There was no new angle.
And and with the Batman movies, they kept trying to do that too. It's like, here's a new girl, and he's going to date her for a little bit. It's going to be a big deal for this movie. And then we're going to completely forget this woman after this movie.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what they do with the Batman movies too, because I know it's eventually they're going to reboot that sucker, and there's not going to be nearly as much time elapsed between the Tim Burton film and the Joel Schumacher films, where they took a big break.
Well, and they also
before
took
the Christian Bale's pop.
I would say what happened with that is that Batman Forever was the transitional movie between Burton and Schumacher, and then you had the full Schumacher with Batman and Robin,
right.
And that's when the bomb dropped, and then you had that big gap between Schumacher and the Nolan movies.
Well, that's what I meant. That's why I said when we had I said Schumacher to Bale. I mean, yeah.
Well, see, the problem I felt with the Batman movies was you started with a dark story, and they got campier as the movies went along. And campier doesn't mean better. It just means goofier, more kid-friendly, and I think a majority of the fans were turned off by that.
Well, yeah. I'm just saying
but the thing is, that's
time between the two, where it's really...
Well, the Christian Bale movie...
Spider-Man 3 didn't come out that long before Amazing Spider-Man 1. That's what I'm saying.
But the Christian Bales went back to the dark story, so people could kind of get back into it. And then the second one was good, the third one was a little long. But the new reboot with the Superman Batman, I'm not really sure how that's going to work, because that's just too soon in my mind. Like, I really don't want to see another Batman. I love Batman to death, one of my favorite DC characters, but I'm just not in the mood to see a Batman movie
right now or next year maybe, or the year after.
Part of it seems to be too that they don't feel like Superman can support himself. After Man of Steel, there was too much like static between audience expectations, what they actually got. And I think a lot of Superman Batman is going to be about establishing the new Ben Affleck era of Batman. It's almost like a backdoor pilot for more Batman movies, and of course the Justice League movie.
But I will. Well, I mean, so it'll be interesting to see if whenever they start the Affleck era, if they go
Old Batman.
If they even do an origin story, right? You know,
I hope to God they don't.
Like,
We've already
do
had
they
that.
even need to do that?
Why not? He's going to be the old grumpy Batman. Like, we already know his origin story, so he's going to be maybe the withered, battered
That's
soldier.
why I don't understand why Spider-Man can't do the 007, where you're just changing Spider-Man. You're just changing who is in the costume, but you don't have to go back and retell the origin again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we all know Spider-Man's origin. You can recap if you want to if you want to modernize it a little bit. If some time's passed since the origin story was told, and you want to modernize it, you can just do a quick little flashback, kind of showing what happened. But you don't have to and like literally, that's what it is. The entire movie is his origin all over again, and I think that's what they need to stop doing. And just like I said, 007 it, where it's just the continuing adventures of 007. The actors changing, and the eras are changing, but outside of that, we already know the shtick, right?
And before Casino Royale, we never even had a Bond origin movie. It was enough that he showed up and you saw what he did based on what he was doing in front of you. You didn't need all this background stuff.
Recently, we kind of had an origin story.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Before Casino Royale, the Bond movies were doing just fine for the previous 20-some-odd movies without an origin.
But see, they did that whole thing where Connery was kind of dark, mysterious, and then they got campy with Roger Moore, and then they tried to do
that's just time.
The point is that they were allowed to change. They were allowed to evolve over time.
But the problem is, like you said, I think Spider-Man, there wasn't enough gap. I don't think there's enough gap between Batman. The X-Men movie was the right idea to go in there and not reboot, but fix. Like this movie, if you watch the X-Men movie, which I've seen several times, they went in there and they fixed everything. It's like all the mistakes and all these little gaps and really bad ideas. Let's just fix it with one movie, and then we can do another movie, and we can do another movie, but we're going to do it with same characters, same ideas, but away from them. It's a continuation. Mm-hmm. Kind of like where Mac was saying, where like they got rid of Tobey Maguire, so it felt different. Like he should have been in a movie. I agree with you there. It almost felt like that. 'Cause Amazing was enjoyable, but yeah, you're right.
Well, and one thing that the Batman movies did fairly well is each movie wasn't a Batman origin story. It was a villain origin story.
Yeah.
And it seems like the villains have gotten short shrift, especially in the last few of them, where they tried to just pack too much in. You didn't have somebody to focus in on and get involved with, invested in. It was just too much going on. Okay, stop that.
I need to cut.
Mr. Fix-It. Tell him about the Fantastic Four movie, the Josh Trank Fantastic Four movie. What do you know?
Just that I heard something about them being.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about just in general.
Oh, I mean,
who is Josh Trank?
I don't know.
He's the director of Chronicle.
Is he? I didn't know.
Yeah. So
I know. Well, my understanding is that Johnny Storm's black. They're supposed to be disabled, and apparently the girl who's playing Sue Storm has never read comics. And that's all I know. That's pretty much all I've heard.
I'll tell you what I know. Okay, did you get to see Chronicle?
No.
Yeah, I know you saw Chronicle.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
Did you get to see
No, I didn't.
Okay. Chronicle was a pretty cool movie. It was kind of like
Blair Witch.
Akira meets Miracle Man with the Blair Witch aspect, because it was a found footage movie. Okay. But it was superheroes done as sort of a found footage horror story.
I like the Miracle Man touch. That's right. Yeah. Very much.
Pretty good flick. The same director is doing the Fantastic Four reboot at Fox, because they're trying to create a superhero universe beyond the mutants. And you spoke a little bit earlier about how they went in Days of Future Past and fixed the X-Men. I think part of that was that the superhero movies of the year 2000 are a lot different than the superhero movies of 2014. And so there was a way for them to fix enough stuff where they could have a Marvel-style cinematic universe at Fox that would integrate the Fantastic Four. Now, Trank has wanted to do a more what I say is all tour theory, the thing where the director comes in and makes it his own, which Nolan gets credit for on the Batman stuff. Actually, most of the Batman directors have made the movies their own, even to their own detriment. But so you've got the kid from The Spectacular Now is playing Mr. Fantastic, and he's a guy in his early 20s. You've got Kate Mara playing Sue Storm. You've got what is his name? The kid from Chronicle.
But is it well?
Michael B. Jordan. That was the guy's name because he was in Fruitvale Station.
Okay.
And then you've got who's playing the Thing? Oh, crap! Who is playing the Thing?
This will be fixed in post.
Yeah, we'll have to fix it in post. Who the hell is playing the Thing? Somebody who's like a creepy guy. God, they've already got Fantasy Four 2 on the IMDb page.
See this? This is on the back of a page this guy had. This is Bill
Oh,
Everett.
that is cool.
Bill Everett, Captain America sketch.
That's nice looking. I like that site. I use it a lot. Hey, neither one of you guys are going to see Lucy, are you?
Yeah.
You're going to see it?
Yeah, I want to see
Okay,
it.
I want to see it
looks
too. Okay, so Miles Teller, the kid from The Spectacular Now, is playing Reed Richards. Jamie Bell, Billy Elliot. Remember Billy Elliot, the Irish kid that had to dance? What is he in more recently, though? He was in something where he's playing like darker, more moody characters. He's playing the Thing. Now, Michael B. Jordan was saying that they're going to play it not as superheroes, but as people who have sort of disabilities. They're people who go up in space, they get these powers, and have to deal with the problems that happen in their life from the powers. Meanwhile, Kate Mara was saying that she had not read comic books, that she liked comic book movies, but she never read comic books. And when she got the part of Sue Storm, she asked the director, Josh Trank, if he wanted her to read the comic books. Or asked if she needed to read the comic books. And he said, no, I don't want you to read the comics. I'm doing my own thing.
Oh.
So how do we feel about that? For starters, none of us at this table have a problem with Black Johnny Storm, right?
No.
He's adopted or there's
Or she's adopted.
Yeah, it could be. That'd be cool too. She could be adopted, sure. So none of us have a problem with that. And the only problem that I have is that there are a lot of stereotypical aspects to Johnny Storm that would not reflect favorably if you apply that to a black actor.
Too much swag.
Hothead, attitude, materialistic. Maybe not but we don't know what kind of changes they're going to make in Johnny Storm. So I don't think any of us have any problem with that. He's a great actor. He's probably I'm the most excited about him and what he can bring to his role than I am over any of the other actors. How about the whole I'm going to do it my way kind of thing? Are we scared that we're going back to the 90s with this, or do we think he's going to actually be something interesting?
I think that's probably for the Fantastic Four
A safe bet?
a good thing because those last movies hurt the Fantastic Four. I mean, that you're already working with kind of a group that's not going to translate to film favorably, in my opinion. But then, I mean, outside of the Thing,
Now,
Human Torch, because they look awesome.
Are they
right?
going to do it like found footage as well?
That is not going to be the case.
Oh.
My understanding is they've been asked that and said, no, we're not going to do it that way this time.
That would be kind of a cool concept.
But I remember in the early days, people were thinking that might be the case. I don't think that's the case.
Like that was why they selected them because they liked that take on it and would kind of force them to do that take again. No, I mean I think that's fine. And honestly, shout out to Fantastic Four fans. I just don't think that there are enough of them out there that they're going to be offended that you did a different take on.
Well,
Fantastic
Marvel is
Four.
canceling the book, right?
That's another one of those rumors is that the Marvel Isaac Perlman, in particular, I believe it was, is so irritated with the relationship between Fox and Marvel that they would just as soon cancel or in some other way sabotage the Fantastic Four books than to give any free publicity to the Fox movies.
Well, they made no toys for the X-Men movie.
Yeah, they made no toys. They didn't sign off on that.
No toys. I really expected some kind of toy because, I mean, when the Avengers came out, I mean, you could find Thor figures everywhere, but, I mean, you just expected
Was he the peg warmer? I don't get to the toy stores very much anymore.
All I know is every time we went to Target, there was, Cap stuff was mid-level, Iron Man stuff was mid-level, Hulk stuff was mid-level, and there was plenty of Thor.
A lot of Hawkeyes, I noticed.
Yeah, a lot of Hawkeye stuff. I think it's gonna hurt. I don't know. I don't know about sabotage the movie, but I mean, I'm reading the current.
Well, I mean, I don't see how that's a good. I can see where you're coming from for the toys because if they're going to pay a chunk of change,
that's a big push for your product.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the reason why the Young Justice cartoon got canceled was because the toys weren't selling well enough. The cartoon is beloved; people really wanted a third season of that, but they canceled the entire cartoon just because the toys weren't selling well enough for their liking. So you know that Fox is taking a hit because they must get a part of that cash as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fine with that. I understand that's hardball, but I don't need a stinking toy. I'm too damn old for them anyway. But the comics, why would you? Well, I did buy a Martian Manhunter toy in the last year, so I buy less toys now.
Okay. Keeping them honest.
Keeping me honest. but I don't see the point in messing with the comics. Just keep the Fantastic Four in your comics. Keep them prominent. It doesn't matter. They can't sell Fantastic Four comics anyway. And I do believe that that's a group of characters that need an updating. They're not contemporary. They don't reflect
Well, they're the
an
first
American.
family of Marvel. I mean,
Yeah.
they're always referred to as the first family of Marvel.
Which is actually part of the problem is because it's 4 people and it has to be the same 4 people and you have that domestic quality to it. It's like you were forced to not. Just a few years ago, they killed Johnny Storm and then reversed it almost immediately. Not that any death that Marvel is immutable anyway.
Right.
But you can't do anything to surprise anybody or excite anybody anymore, it seems.
True. The reboot, I think just everybody's jumping on the comic book bandwagon again. It got hot, and everybody's jumping in there trying to produce something. I mean, remember when X-Men came out, they made a Man-Thing movie. They did Blade TV movies. I mean, they were just throwing product out there hoping something else would stick. I kind of feel like that's what the Fantastic Four feels like. I mean,
Well, I think there's a lot of eggs in that basket, though, because I know Fox wants to have their own universe.
I really hope they really take in a direction that the fans aren't expecting, like doing something different. I mean, don't ruin it like you did the last one where Galactus was a giant cloud. Like, that was so disappointing. I remember when that happened, I was just like, he's a cloud. Oh, wow.
There were a lot of arbitrary changes to those movies that were not to the benefit of the property. It's one thing if you're going to do something like, here's the thing. We were talking about the Spider-Man movies. And one of the problems that Mark Webb had, from what I'm hearing, is that anything that he wants to do that would be in any way innovative, Avi Arad, the guy who was running Marvel and toy business for a long time there, basically cock blocks him and says, no, I want you to do this because we make more toys this way, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he can't do anything innovative. And that's obviously the worst extreme in the other direction where you're so hemmed in that you can't interest people anymore.
Well, that's always been the rumor for the Ant-Man movie. I mean,
well, and that's the other thing, too, is we've lost our director for the Ant-Man movie.
Yeah, and so, they're trying to downplay that one as well. It's like, well, no, it was just they had creative differences and they decided to part ways. You put 8 years of your life into a project and you leave, it's because they literally said, your idea is not going to work. We don't like what you want to do, so walk or do it our way. To me, that's a bad idea because you hire these directors to take your product in a different direction, breathe new life into it. That's what they did with the other ones. And I think that's where Marvel's gotten its head a little too big. I think they're getting to that point where they're too big to fail, and they're going to come crashing hard because it's going to be. I think, thank God, Guardian of what I've heard so far is doing good, but I'm scared everything else because they've already lined up 5 movies for the next up to the end of
at least, yeah.
Yeah, and so my fear is Marvel's like, well, because we meddle so much, that's why their movies are so popular. So let's meddle some more. And I think what it is if you hire a certain director for a certain take on a character with a certain look, you give it to them, you give them what they need, you build your toys around it, but you let that director run with it. Now, again, Marvel's trying to keep all the movies connected, and I don't think that's a very good idea because if one movie's bad, it's going to pull the other ones down. I mean, if let's be honest,
they've seen more of a benefit of it pulling up, though. Iron Man pulls up, Cap pulls up Avengers. It's so far, it's been the tent that raises everybody.
It's a risky game, but I think that.
But for all those movies, you got the Thor. That pulls the movies up.
But Thor was not a failure, right?
No, Thor made plenty of money. And a lot of people like Thor too. I personally did not enjoy that movie very much.
Which one, the first or second?
Either. But the Marvel Universe has helped to elevate those movies, and there are people who are more geared toward that type of movie that love them, and it's elevates a Captain America. I want my Captain America to do well. If Thor helps Captain America do well, and Cap helps Thor do well, mazel tov. I'm happy about all that.
But I still think there are a lot of them are riding on the Avengers train. I think Thor did so well because Avengers did so fantastic. I think if Thor would have come out before Avengers, I don't think people would have been as excited.
But by
Thor was a little flat.
Yeah,
I mean, there was a lot of problems with it.
But by the same token, you don't have a Thor movie as awesome as the Winter Soldier was in terms of all its reveals. When they're taking threads from an Iron Man movie, they're taking threads from other, Thor, since Thor introduced.
But see, and those are great ideas. I think the problem but that was, I mean, because if you talk to the directors, they'll be the first ones to tell you that, if they got stuck or something, they'd go to the director of Thor.
You talking about Kenneth Branagh?
No, director of Thor. I mean, Avengers.
Oh, Joss Whedon.
Joss Whedon. They would go to Joss Whedon, and Joss Whedon, because I remember reading an article, for the Thor 2 movie where the director was stuck on a part and Josh Whedon walked in and fixed it. They were all like, "Oh, it's amazing." I'm thinking, no, he just did what he's supposed to do. He took a product and he adjusted it to fit, what they needed to tell a story. The problem was, I'm pretty sure that, we can't make a toy of that, or we can't make a game of this. And I think Marvel's cashing in on it, but I just, after the whole Ant-Man thing, I was a little turned off.
Well, here's the thing that I've been hearing with Ant-Man is part of the problem was that now that Marvel's doing so well, Disney and their execs are the ones who are getting in there and giving notes and meddling. So it's not that Marvel has gotten a swell head. They don't know what they're doing. Well, it's that Disney has started to come into the Marvel turf and say, well, we want a piece of this pie. We want to have some credit for the Marvel success. And they're interfering, and that's causing problems. But another thing that I wonder about, too, is that Edgar Wright is an extremely stylistic director. He has a very specific vision about how he wants to do things. And he doesn't have a very strong box office track record. So it might have been – sometimes you like something with like a property like Guardians of the Galaxy. My understanding is they were pushing him to be as distinct as possible. They wanted him that movie to be as James Gunn of a movie as possible. Now that was before Disney started meddling, so maybe that's what the key difference is. But it might have just been that Edgar Wright, as great as some of his movies are, and I know there are people who really love those movies. I personally really like Scott Pilgrim. Mm-hmm. I thought that was an incredibly engaging movie. It really sucked you in. But it wasn't a successful movie. And maybe that his style is so extreme and it's sort of like the Terry Gilliam issue. I know Terry Gilliam is a wonderful director and I love a lot of his work, but he also goes off the rails in big ways where it costs a lot of money, where he's not even always critically acclaimed. And sometimes it's just he goes off and does bad ideas. He's made, I think Thailand was one of his. It was a terrible movie, a horrible, painful movie to have to watch. And so sometimes it's just a matter of the director's out of hand too. Maybe they needed to bring him back in. I won't know until I see the movie whether or not it's still a good movie. If it's a piece of crap, then I'll know that Marvel's at fault and Disney's at fault.
What I've read a lot of is the two consensuses. One was he wasn't used to dealing with so much help from a studio, and the other was the fact that the studios weren't happy that he was going with a darker character, more mean-spirited character, which in the Ant-Man comics, Kirkman's run, I actually enjoyed.
Irredeemable Ant-Man was great.
That's where I thought they were going to go with it. And I was like, this is going to be fun to watch. Like, you're going to watch an asshole on screen and still like him at the end of the movie. I feel that that's kind of probably what happened, and they're all hinting how, nobody wants to talk about what the script really looks like, because there's some people who've read the script and they're like, oh, it's a fantastic script. And then you ask them, they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. Because a lot of them are hinting that, well, the new script's more formulated. It's kind of what you're already used to. And I think that's where Marvel's going to screw up, is where people are going to be like, I've seen this movie already. Like, show me something new.
They're going to keep using the same
formula.
Formula for its lead into the next big conglomeration of all those movies. So we got to have the setup, we got to have the stinger like this, and we got to keep doing that over and over and over again. And you're just going to plug a different character into it, and it's got to be safe because we don't want to start alienating people. I could totally see that happening. But you got to ask yourself, is that better than just having bomb after bomb? Well, ask DC.
Well, I do have to point out too. You were talking about 8 years on that property, but. Okay. You're talking about the 8 years Edgar Wright spent on that property, but a lot can change in 8 years, and maybe what was going to be cool at the beginning of that wasn't cool by the end of it. So it may not have been a matter of let's turn it into something more generic, let's turn it into something that fits. It might have just been that they were okay with this little one-off Ant-Man movie being crazy as all get out at one time, and then after 8 years, it's like, well, this doesn't fit anymore. It
has to fit in their little universe, because if they're going to ever use them in an Avengers movie, they can't have, irredeemable Ant-Man running around with the Avengers, because then it kind of taints the characters. They can't have a villain running around with them. So, I don't know. We'll see. I mean,
it takes too much to explain him once he's in the movie if he's acting that way, right? It's like that's like when he.
Well, he would be tolerated.
Right. So there has to be some explanation as to why he's with the Avengers. It's gonna be hard to do that with a guy named Ant-Man.
Well, yeah. And then, like I said, I'm worried that Marvel's getting to that point where it's too big to fail. They got that big head, because I think after
I really don't think that's a problem with Kevin Feige. I think the problem is Disney.
Well, and I'll agree with you there. Disney is notorious for stepping in and meddling with their movies. Just look at the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. The first few were under Disney, but my understanding was it Michael Bruckheimer was basically leave it alone. Near the end, he was kind of burned out, and Disney kind of started well, let's do this, and we should have this, and that's where you get mermaids and shit and weird, I don't know. I
don't think that anybody could have stopped that series from running out of steam. I thought you had one good movie out of that. You could have made this 2 and 3. It had that Matrix problem where they decided they're going to stretch a story over.
Oh, don't even get me started on the Matrix. Lord Jesus, no.
They try to spread one story out over 2 movies and make it this great big epic, and part of the fun was just taking the piss. It's like nobody expected the movie based on a ride to be any good, and the fact that it was entertaining and fun, but it's one fun movie. You don't have to. Smokey and the Bandit was a perfectly fine movie. You don't need to make a sequel to Smokey and the Bandit. You don't need to do a sequel to Pirates of the Caribbean. Just let it be the thing that it was entertaining. And now I think the whole Johnny Depp backlash, it made a ton of money. Obviously that worked to Disney's benefit, but anybody who's involved in those movies is tainted at this point.
Yeah. And if I see one more damn Jack Sparrow Halloween costume, I'm going to go postal. Can we stop with the Jack Sparrow costumes?
If there's a runner-up for the Crow as most overused Halloween costume, it's going to be Jack Sparrow.
The worst part is if you go to Renfest, how many Jack Sparrows?
Oh my gosh, give me a break.
It's sad.
New Twitter follows came from Barney Stinson, Bianca Santoni, Greg Barr, Kidvid, and Storybreakers. We received Twitter favorites from Ange, Bronze Age Babies, Charlton Hero, Chris William, CJ, Count Druncula, David Goulding Artist, Ilperin, Eternal Rage, Firestorm Fan, Future Primitive, Captain Kringle, Martin Gray, Milk the Cow Podcast, Professor Riptide, Sin, and the Top 5 Road Crew, as well as retweets from Ange, Charlton Hero, CJ, Count Druncula, Ilperin, Eternal Rage, Firestorm Fan, Future Primitive, Captain Kringle, Martin Gray, Milk the Cow Podcast, Sin, and the Top 5 Road Crew. Our first comment comes from Mac on my cell phone. He texts, I'm a no-go, food poisoning, throwing up and spraying shit all night, feel like death. That kind of sucks because we've got a lot of mail and like really big, heavy, meaty mail. And after doing the annual, I realized it's a lot of fun to have one or more guys with me instead of just my usual nerd monotone. So I think we're just going to do a few light comments and save the really heavy ones for the final episode of the movie coverage. Knowing Flame Comics added us to their hashtag Follow Friday with the most excellent podcasters, Milk the Cow Podcast and Chronic Insomnia. Milk the Cow added, thanks mate, it's appreciated. Between the pages, tweeted, thanks. I'm thrilled you joined Superblog Team Up. You'll hear more about that in the relatively near future. Charlton Hero wished a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to hashtag Superblog Team Up, at Mystery Vlog, and at Rolled Spine. Keep the shows coming in 2015. And gave us a holiday card. It's pretty sweet. Check it out on the blog. Jason Martinez let us know that he's listening to Marvel DC Slate 2020 Part 4 and hashtag Marvel SHP Annual 2014. Keith J. Baker commented on episode 24, Marvel DC Movie Slate 2020 Part 4, agree on Captain Marvel movie, should not call it Shazam. Movie should be like hashtag Multiversity, hashtag Thunderworld. I'm still waiting on my copy to come in the mail. Eternal Rage lets us know that the Shazam movie would probably be a bigger draw if they called it Magical Superman. Oxymoron. I've been a fan of the Inhumans for quite some time. Very little of note existed outside of the main 4 to 5 characters. He sent us a piece of Fantastic Four art featuring the Inhuman Crystal, which you can see on the blog. And then he added, didn't think I'd make it all the way through Iron Man talk again, but it paid off in the end. The ambush was well received. Wanaman wrote, maligning both Alpha Flight and Excalibur? Oh, that's fighting talk. Meet me in the Mid-Atlantic tomorrow morning. Bring fists. I laughed at that one. Count Dracula wrote on episode 25, Marvel SHP Annual 2014, is that a remix version of the Marvel SHP opening theme on the latest episode? Even in the Best of special, the best line of the year is Fix-It's You Got Linda Tripped. Ange wrote, finally got the chance to listen to all of this. I still laugh out loud at the revelation of the first Iron Man page, well worth a repeat listen. I really like Madame Mask and wouldn't mind a whole episode devoted to her. Looking forward to listening in 2015, and he sent us a bunch of Hellcat and Gargoyle related art. Really whets my appetite to do another Hellcat episode. Greg did point out, though, that as much as I enjoy Isaac and Defenders, 4 issues to himself might be 3 issues too many. Speaking of his 80s miniseries. And just so you don't think I'm a total dick, hope for a speedy recovery goes out to our friend Illegal Machine.
The Marvel Superheroes podcast is in no way affiliated with or endorsed by Marvel Entertainment. All characters mentioned and audio clips employed are believed covered under fair use, with no infringement intended against their copyright holders. The views expressed in this podcast are assumed legitimate, truthful, and solely possessed by the speaker.
Then fine, I'll tell you something happy. I'm reading. I watched Guardians of the Galaxy last night on Blu-ray. My kids got it for me for Christmas. Of course, I saw it in the theaters, but god damn, that movie's so much fun.
Yeah, he's okay. My girlfriend bought it for me. I need to watch it again.
I haven't listened to your big episode yet. I didn't want to listen to it until I watched it again.
Okay.
But what's wrong with you?
Listen to the podcast.
Oh, all right.
No, I'm going to watch it.
I got it downloaded. It's just,
Yeah. I'm going to watch it again. My girlfriend bought it for us, and she bought it on 3D too. So thankfully my father's got a 3D TV.
Oh wow!
So it's like cool. We'll give that to him because we're not going to have one of those ever because it's stupid. And we'll just watch our Blu-ray. And she picked it up mostly because she knew I liked the special features. That's why we don't have a copy of Winter Soldier in this house, is because they burned us on the special features. There's nothing on there. There's no reason to buy that disc. Wow. But at least this one's got some stuff on it, like the Avengers preview stuff, the Age of Ultron preview stuff. Did you get around to watching that yet?
Yeah, all 15 seconds of it, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know what it is, but Scarlet Witch, the way they're filming her, I totally am into her right now.
You got the hots for that chick, I think.
No, they're all squirrel monkeys. That whole family is a bunch of squirrel monkeys. But for some reason, it's just
what the fuck does that mean?
They look like squirrel monkeys.
You mean the actress?
Yeah, all the Olsens. They all look like mutants. They don't look like they're actual humans. They look like
she's one of the Olsen twins family?
Yeah, she's the youngest of the Olsens. She's not a twin, but she's in the same family.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and if you look at her, she does look kind of weird, but it works for Scarlet Witch. And I just like how I don't know the way they're filming her, the way that she's moving her arms and such. It's just like you know that song "Lights" by Ellie Goulding?
Not a clue.
Okay, see, now I'm getting a Rob Kelly moment here. There's a popular British singer, and the song Lights came out around 2011, I think it was. And in the video, they keep doing these deals where it's like bullet time, where the camera circles around her, where she's a static image figure, and does a 360 around her. And then there's all these cheesy like digital projections around her. And because she's dressed up sort of like she's dressed kind of like Zatanna. And I keep looking at that video and going, that's the Zatanna TV show. Just do Lights by Ellie Goulding as a TV show, and boom, you got Zatanna. And this sort of like the same vibes. Like I look at that, it's like they figured out how to do it to make, because I've never liked Scarlet Witch at all. She's a boring magic user. I'm not into her. She's got all that convoluted history. I'm Team Zatanna all the way. But just because of how she's moving, the way they're finding a way to make magic kinetic, to where you can visually see that there's something cool going on there. It's not just like, expecto orbis, whatever the hell they do on the Harry Potter crap. And I'm just loving that. I love that Joss Whedon, and I guess after all those years doing Willow and Buffy and all that stuff, he figured out how to do it right. But to make that visually interesting, I'm just fascinated by how they're doing that character. And I've got such a nerd boner for the Vision. I can't wait to see the Vision on screen.
Is he in this movie?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I have avoided everything.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude.
It's okay, you fucker. No, I'm kidding. I've avoided everything I can about the film on purpose. So I'm fine. I don't care. The Vision's in it. That doesn't make me.
Well, that's not exactly been the most discreet thing. They've been talking about that for a long time. Okay. I can tell you who it is, and I can tell you what he looks like, or I can just drop it.
Nah, I'll be surprised.
You'll be surprised. Okay, but anyway, the Vision is one of my favorite Avengers, and it's the closest I'll probably ever get to a Martian Manhunter on the screen that I would want to have any interaction with. As opposed to whatever crap Snyder comes up with, if he comes up with anything. So, yeah, I'm very excited for that.